all queued up and stuff, Hey everybody, good morning, good morning. It's Saturday. I think it's 8 a.m. in the morning.
Someone here.
Thanks, Genzo, for the sub. Love it. Thank you,
I
sir.
know. Keep your eye open.
Let's light this candle. 11 months. Hey, Genzo, are we coming close to a year anniversary of the podcast? That means that we're close to a year, aren't we? Holy moly. Because obviously you've been moderating since the start, so I guess we're on our 11th month. That really excites me to know that the podcast is going on its year. Damn. Wow, awesome. Well, anyway, I'm Andy, producer BTW on Twitter, Cafe BTW on TikTok, and Love Retro BTW right here on Twitch. Every Saturday morning, I do this show called Cafe BTW, a morning gaming coffee podcast. So I suggest getting your coffee together before the show. Sit down, relax, grab a cup. Genzo says, it took a while to get affiliate, so probably already been a year. Oh my God, I guess you're right. I got affiliate, no, I'll say it took about 2 months to get affiliate from when I started to really take it seriously, I would say. So yeah, I think you're right, which is great. But yeah, so welcome to another episode. Hello if you're here live, and hello if you're watching on VOD. Because after we do the lives, we of course have a podcast library collection right in my Twitch channel where you could see older episodes of Cafe BTW, a morning gaming podcast, at any time you'd like. It could be 3 in the morning. It could be during work, just playing it in the background. It's a show that could actually give you some extra kicks by watching the visuals on Twitch, or you could audibly listen to the show. Today, we're going to jump into video game magazines. We're going to talk a little bit about my history and why I love them so much. And not so much, a history lesson about video game magazines, more about a walkthrough of the nostalgia that we were so connected to when we had video game magazines, or when we relied, like, basically, I will also jump into a little bit about the bookstore and the culture of going to the bookstore and looking at the magazine rack, stuff like that. But before we get started, I like to kind of keep the top of the show open to kind of like what's going on in the world, or, what's going on with me. So that being said, there's this new app called Clubhouse, which I talked about last week. And I started my second week of doing a show on there called Retro Gaming Talks. And last night, it was simply, what's your earliest gaming memory? And, this is an Audible app that allows you to host, events or do a panel discussion. It's all Audible. And man, we had a bunch of people show up last night, and really it wasn't about who you were, it wasn't about your background, because this app is turned into kind of like a networking type of app. It was just like, let me hear your earliest gaming memory, and everyone shared it. Multiple stories too. And I just really enjoy hearing the love of retro gaming. So when people are coming in the room, they're like, wow, this is I like this room. This is a change of pace. So that really made me happy that, we have this new platform, this new app, and I'm trying to tap into the retro gaming market on there and try to create a culture. And I created what's called a club, and hopefully they'll approve the club, and I'll be able to do the Retro Gaming Talks Club and build a whole community on there. And just kind of help, be another arm in this retro gaming world that I kind of crawl into, and really have a great time talking about it. I was thinking about the podcast last week. At the very end, we're about to leave, and this really great streamer, Hatchlord, who is a great streamer, retro streamer on Twitch, rated me, and for the first time, we had more than 70 people in this channel. So, I'd like to say that I don't stream every day, obviously, but I stream every Saturday, and I'm really been enjoying the Twitch streaming and how I extend my network, whether it's here on TikTok, where I'm live on TikTok, whether it's, tweeting on Twitter. I've been really just enjoying doing this podcast and doing all the other little supplemental things to expand on the podcast. So really met a great amount of people yesterday, and look at this diverse group of wonderful people that just love video games. There's just the easiest way to get along and talk about something we can all be on the same page about, and that's video games. I mean, not everyone gets along on video games in the sense that, one person might not like one game over the other, but we all have a love of video games, which we can all relate to. That being said, I do want to mention that we're talking about supplemental things here, and I was on this awesome podcast, which is one of probably my favorite retro video game podcasts, and that's Story Mode. And I forgot to tell Genzo to link this in the chat, but Story Mode is a podcast. I was one of the guest hosts this week. The podcast is available. I can give this to you, Genzo, in Discord if you could help me link it. I forgot to give you this earlier. My bad. Let me give you the link to the episode. But if you guys want to hear a really detailed news-centric episode, it's called Story Mode. We talked about the year of 2001, which I had no idea. I forgot how great the year 2001 was. We had Resident Evil. We had Final Fantasy. We had Halo. It was really awesome. And then Genzo, if at some point it'd be cool to just run the link in chat, and you could check out this really great podcast. A few retro Twitter people, Blue Williams, Retro Game Brews, who's been on the show before, and the Mage, which does a lot of podcasting in the retro circles. There he is. Perfect timing. Retro Game Brews is one of the hosts. He's in chat right now with Story Mode, so please check it out. Genzo's going to get the link working soon, so you can check out this episode. I really had a great time digging into a lot of this 2001 video game history. Resident Evil 4. We talked about the GameStop crazy, which I'm going to talk about real quick at the top here as well. But if you want to check out this episode, I know we're going to get the link going, but you could also basically check it out on Buzzsprout, or it's on the iTunes of the world and all that fun stuff. And we'll get the link up in a second. But great episode. Very, very journalistic approach to a podcast. We read through highlights of articles and talk about them. And as Retro Game Brews, I filled in for him, and I'm glad that you thought it was a great episode. I just wanted to do a good job, man. Thanks so much for stopping by, and we're gonna get Retro Game Brews on the show again to co-host. He was one of the OG co-hosts on this show back when we started doing the show here. So yeah, please check it out. I know Genzo's gonna get that link working for you. Thank you, buddy. Thank you, Genzo. Best mod in the world, by the way. That being said, I did want to talk. Just listen, I'm not into politics. I'm not the biggest one to talk about the controversy, but I like to mention it and at least make sure that we, as a show here, at least mention that something crazy happened recently, because there's just Reddit is driving the video game driving the stock market. That Reddit is single-handedly, people are shorting things like GameStop and AMC, and now Dogecoin, which is a cryptocurrency that I know is being pumped by Reddit. And for the first time in our history, it's been unprecedented that there's always been those rumors that not the government, but that all the traders were manipulating the market. But we're proving right now that as a society with the power of social media, we can affect the market. We could drive the market. So the one point I want to get here is that this might be the beginning of the digital revolution. This actually might be the beginning of digital money, and really thinking about maybe we have to go into a digital economy, that maybe paper money and that whole world is going to the wayside, and maybe Bitcoin is coming. And there's the link, everyone. Nightbot in chat, check it out. Story Mode podcast right there. We'll run it through the chat. If you happen to be on VOD as well, you'll be able to see it. Click that link and check out the Story Mode podcast. But I don't want to go too much down this rabbit hole. I really don't. I guess we're going to see what happens, but what I'm scared about is that, the government's going to start shutting things down. I know Robinhood stopped trading Dogecoin. Now we're getting into the point where things are being shorted and people are putting in dollars into different stocks, and then the trading platforms are stopping you from continuing to do that stuff. So Oh man, it's kind of like what's next? It's like we're in 2021 already, and now we're dealing with the most unprecedented stock market. I guess like I don't know what you would call this, spike, climb, whatever it is, with stores that aren't even supposed to be being stocks that high, but you could see how the normal world can manipulate the market. Pretty crazy, to be honest. But I I mean that's the power of Reddit, right? I mean Reddit is the front page of the internet, as they say, right? The Reddit is the front page of the internet, and it controls the world. It doesn't, but it's a good example of this one Reddit pretty much puts gets a group of people together, start shorting all these famous like old stocks that aren't doing well right now, like AMC and Bed Bath and Beyond even had a little spike. I don't know what to say, but more than hey, that's the power of the internet, right? Well, anyway, we're getting into something today. We're going to get into the topic today. So the topic today is video game magazines. And as a kid, these things were very important to my childhood. And this right here, this is the internet, right? See? That's the internet. And why do I say that? Because I didn't have Google to simply Google, oh, how do I get through this part in Super Mario Brothers 3? Like how do I get past this part in the Ocarina of Time or whatever? Maybe there was an internet back then, but it wasn't the same. You would literally buy strategy guides to help you with the games or magazines that would give you updates, and this is how you learned what was next. Obviously, the OG of it all, and this is a really cool one that I have. It's the Secret Amana cover, Nintendo Power. What year is this one? November? I forget what year it is. Nah, it's okay. It's definitely not young, but this is a good one. This is my TikTokers. The Secret Amana is a fantastic game, and this was a really cool Nintendo Power. Then I have one here. Let's see. This is my Final Fantasy Tactic Advance cover, Nintendo Power. So, look how nostalgic it is already. And just beautiful design on pages, It's just, there was posters and stuff, advertisements for 90s things and whatnot and all that crap, All that stuff that you really loved. And then, look, I even have Dreamcast, the magazine, which... obviously, the Dreamcast was a favorite of mine, so I used to buy the Dreamcast magazine. This is a good cover too. This is let me see let me get this to go the right direction. This is with Spider-Man. Oh man, look at this stuff. This stuff is already making me feel good. But yeah, video game magazines are some of the coolest examples of nostalgia that exist still and that you could buy. And we're going to start off with a cool Nintendo Power commercial. We're going to watch a couple of these because obviously not all these video game magazines had commercials, but Nintendo Power did. So let's check it out.
Maps, contests, game reviews, and score-blasting high adventure.
Toby, help us! We're in trouble!
Order Nintendo Power now. Call this number and save $6 on 6 big issues. 110 pages of challenges and excitement. There's intrigue. There's energy. You don't just read Nintendo Power, you live it. Call 1-800-521-0900, extension 200 for your secret weapon.
Wait, hold on. Did you see how cool that was? His Nintendo Power was like a lightsaber. Hold on a second.
Nintendo Power, you live it. There's
Right here.
energy.
Look at this. Oh, man.
You don't just read Nintendo Power, you live it. Call 1-800-521-0900, extension 200 for your secret weapon to higher scores and hot game news. Available by subscription only.
Toby!
It's simple. $15, 6 issues.
Your Nintendo Power's here!
This is no dream. Just call the Nintendo hotline to order now.
Remember when like bedding in the 90s or the late 80s like had that you had these like funny design blankets with circles and squares and stuff, and like that was like the weird aesthetic of your like childhood bedroom. I remember like catalogs would show these like weird like sheets with like the squares and the triangles, and it looked like they were in space or something. So that's a whole nother episode I could do about sheets. But yeah,
We'll bill you later.
That's a cool
Remember, not
commercial.
available in stores.
let me show you this one. This one's from more of the 90s. I think 91. Oh, no, 90 actually. So a year later. No Fear says, when you're a kid, you want to be an adult so bad. Then you're an adult and long to be a kid again. It's true. Actually, now, if you could travel back in time, wouldn't you like tell yourself, stay a kid as much as possible? You don't want to be an adult. Like myself, from if I was able to travel back in time and talk to my younger self, let's say when I was 12, that's a good age to jump back and be like, yo, man, just enjoy this ride as much as possible. Trust me, you don't want to be an adult. So that would be my pitch to myself.
Now get Nintendo Power 12 times a year. 6 great issues plus 6 free strategy guides on a hot new game. That's twice the power for still $15. Wow, call now.
I wonder if this number works still. If someone in the audience wants to give it a go, that'd be great. 1-800-421-2000. Are they still taking orders on subscriptions for Nintendo Power? No, they're not. I also, I have the last Nintendo Power made. I would say keep playing TMT, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, and stay away from the pizza rolls in college. You ate far too many. That's what you would tell yourself? That's hilarious. Yeah, so Nintendo Power obviously brings back so many memories. It's the king of video game magazines. So just to jump back on some stories of Nintendo Power, I remember vividly, like, I think Nintendo Power was really the first time I was like, okay, video game magazines are amazing, and I just couldn't wait for the newest one to come out. I remember once you got it in the mail, you would read it like 5 times just to make sure that you got every piece of that magazine down. I remember I would spend as much time as I could on each page, reading through each page front to back, because I took advantage. I mean, that was the internet. It was like I was reading a web page, but I was getting all the news. All right, so I just wanted to start this whole thing by looking at a few that will just get your brains working a little bit before we move into a little bit more in-depth look at some old video game magazines. So the most important part of today's episode is looking at the covers, taking them in, and just appreciating the art and the artsmanship of the journalism here. This is video game journalism at its core, back in the 90s and the late 80s. And these are a little older. These are Compute magazine. Obviously, at this time, it looks like 1984. So you're looking at like a cool cover about Apple. And yeah, about 1984 is when Apple was kind of doing its thing. I know Atari was out, but I think at this point we had the decline in video game market because of the game E.T. But soon after, in 1985, I believe the NES comes out and reinvents the whole video game industry. Electronic Gaming Monthly. This is a classic cover. This is, I think, one of the most popular third-party magazines, meaning like, Nintendo Power was meant just for Nintendo and made only for Nintendo, where Electronic Gaming Monthly would talk about many different things. Like in this episode, or this mag, they talked about Mega Man 6, Spider-Man 3, Golden Axe 3, Jungle Strike, Road Rash 3DO, Phantasy Star 4, and WWF Royal Rumble. And then they had an exclusive Genesis picks from Street Fighter 2 Championship Edition. Wow. I mean, I just named a whole bunch of good games, and look at it. It just it encompassed all of that. And there's just like the beauty of the art of the magazine. I mean, that must be appreciated too, and just how awesome it was. Because we're not gonna, kids these days don't want to read magazines. You look at the magazine section in a supermarket these days, and it's scary, and like it looks like a lost child. When you go to like the magazine, right? Like, who looks through magazines anymore? It used to be such a great thing, but now we just look at our phones, and search that way. Edge was an interesting one. I didn't really read this one that much, but I know it was a third party. So here they talked about Mega Drive, Super Nintendo, PC, Omega, PC Engine, Neo Geo, and 3DO. And then this one, I guess, featured 3DO. It said the 3DO, how the dream machine shapes up in real life. Obviously, as we know, the 3DO, which would be interesting to do a look back on the 3DO. But as you know, the 3DO was a failure in a lot of ways and had the right idea, but it just never caught on. And then, of course, look at that. Look at this iconic picture of Sonic. Let's read through what's in this one. Dino Crisis, NFL Blitz 2000, Gauntlet Legends, Hybrid Heaven, Rogue Spear, G-Police 2, and more. Exclusive review of Sonic Adventure, the world's fastest hedgehog spins back into action. That's pretty cool. It seems like a lot of good content in this one. And then moving down, PlayStation's official magazine, very much a good one to mention. I did read this one as well, and it was just like Nintendo Power, but in this case, it was more meant for, obviously, PlayStation. But this is one that I think we were talking about this before on my retro talk last night, and I asked, what was the magazine that you missed? And one of the people said that PlayStation magazine, and it brought back memories on that one. Now, moving along, we're going to keep looking at these top 10 lists. I love them. So Hyper, I never read, but I did see this one. But this I think it's an Australian magazine, to be honest. So then we had Games World of Puzzles. Do not remember that one. Retro Gamer was interesting. I never read this one, but I love this cover. Star Wars Rogue Squadron, how LucasArts and Factor 5 teamed up to take on the Galactic Empire with their classic trilogy. I like the cover there. Xbox 360, the magazine. Damn. I mean, it's so crazy that we had all these different magazines. This one looks like it was UK, but this is 2011. Modern Warfare 3 is about to drop. Batman Arkham City was reviewed in this magazine, and then Forza looks like they had some mention of Forza in this as well. Hold on 1 second, folks. Okay. So moving right along. Obviously, Pokemon magazines are very popular. I never really read any of these, but I know there was a bunch of them. Independent and unofficial guide to Minecraft World. Oh, that's cute. Edge, where we're edgy. The Last of Us. So I guess these are newer magazines that are out. Game Informer was owned by EB Games, and they kept it going, and I think it still goes. EB Games, I mean GameStop, sorry. PC Gamer is one that's been around forever. And look, it's still kind of here, but this looks like it has Pillars of Eternity 2, Serious Sam 4. PC Gamer is one I didn't really read that much, but definitely popular. So now what we have to talk about, and I found this video where this person goes through like a history of Barnes and Noble. Why did it rise? Why did it fall? And if we're going to get into magazines, then we have to talk about the culture of the bookstore, because the bookstore honestly was where I went to buy my video game magazines a lot of the times. And the act, and we'll look through a few of these Getty images. So Barnes and Noble represented a very important culture in the 2000s and the 90s, because we did have the internet, but we weren't still buying a lot of stuff online. And we would go into Barnes and Noble, and, I would look at their magazine section. And the magazine section, which you can kind of see in the back over here, was filled with like this one row that had any of the computer, tech, video game magazines all just listed right there for you. So there's a culture here, and it was really funny. You would read through the magazines you could, but the ones that were sealed up, like for instance, like this, you couldn't really like rip them open. There were some occasions where you would see someone had ripped it open and they leave it there. But I would usually buy the ones that had the enclosure, but the plastic, but what they would have usually in the plastic was a bunch of giveaway cards or sign-up sheets for subscription services, stuff like that. So that was the only downfall to that one. Now, we talk about Barnes & Noble, but we can't forget Borders. Borders, in my opinion, was a really fun. It was more of a chill version of Barnes & Noble. I think it was maybe a couple notches down from the popularity of Barnes & Noble, but it was one that people liked. It was a little bit more of the Lyft to the Uber. So Barnes & Noble was the Uber and Borders was the Lyft, and it was usually in every mall. And I also liked their video game section, and they appreciated the video game magazine. They appreciated that the video game magazine had to be a part of the magazine rack, and there was just endless versions of different copies there. And I think one magazine I just want to look more into and talk a little bit more about is Electronic Gaming Monthly, which I actually had a monthly subscription for. And this was my favorite third-party magazine. And the covers were pretty neat. Here's a Conan cover of Electronic Gaming Monthly. And by the way, there's a lot of really neat retro magazine archives online where you can look through what year. So for instance, this is the Electronic Gaming Monthly issue number 4, November 1989. And you could open it up. You could see the cover. You could see some of the pages. You could download the file as a PDF. So if you guys are really interested in looking back, you can. But let's move up a little bit in the 90s. Let's go all the way. Wow, they got everything here. 91. Let's skip a couple of notches here. 96. Well, here now we're talking. This is kind of when it hit its stride, I would say, in the mid 90s. Electronic Gaming Monthly, 1996 preview, exclusive picks of the hottest new games. Virtual Fighter 3. Wow, Virtual Fighter 3 was coming out at that time, and I think the Sega Saturn were still kind of around. Oh man, these are amazing. Here's our classic cover. This was October 1996. You got Tomb Raider. You got a whole bunch of stuff, and I remember it was so messy. It was kind of messy, everything was all over the place. Let's see what we got here. Now, another one that I think, and I found this fan page of GameFan. GameFan was a really, really fun magazine that I enjoyed. And I found this fan page for GameFan. I wonder if GameFan's still around. I haven't really thought about that. Here's some covers from the original GameFan. Oh, that's not it. There we go. I really like this one, and this is one that I would see at the bookstore and want to buy. Legends of Oasis, Earthworm Jim. That was Zombies Ate My Neighbor. I almost blinked there. Okay, that was weird. I wonder if GameFan's around. I'm gonna have to look it up. I don't know what these other pictures. Oh, there's Bayonetta cover for GameFan. That's really nice. So GameFan was also one that was fun. Now here's more PlayStation covers for PlayStation the magazine, which had some really fine art. And yeah, this is Pinterest of all things. So someone posts a lot of these just old covers from PlayStation. It's just the nostalgia and the art here is fantastic. I remember having an EGM subscription. Yeah, I definitely had one. And they were awesome. Now another one which I do own is the Dreamcast magazine. And why don't we take a look through this, which is really, really cool. So this is the Internet Archive. And believe it or not, the Internet Archive has a ton of magazines that you can look through. And this is just so nostalgic. I don't even need to buy the magazine again. I have it right here. Just look at the art style, where your eyes are going, where they're sending your eyes, all the different colors on the blurbs and the quoting. They really put a lot of effort into the quality of these. And this is the Dreamcast one. They're talking about the Dreamcast mic there, Shenmue, and I love the Dreamcast, so it's really cool to look through this right now, which just probably came out during the height of when the Dreamcast was awesome. Just amazing. Look at this content. This is just like so much detail to put out one of these a month. Just tons and tons of articles, details, stories, whatever they might be, reviews. NBA 2K1, which was a classic NBA game. Ready to Rumble 2. Didn't play the casino one. What was this? Unreal Tournament head blown off repair kit. Oh, that's funny. I guess that's a joke. But yeah, as you can see, I mean, here's just like great examples of just the beautiful history of video game magazines. Next Generation was another one I really, really liked. Let's take a look. Oh, that's a cool poster. Look at that. Head to the Sega Saturn. So they had an article with Peter Molyneux. He created Fable, if you guys know, and I believe he created Populous. I might be wrong. But yeah, he is a legend. Not always loved, but appreciated. And looks, they're talking about Jaguar plugs into the CD revolution, the Jaguar CD. Damn. Never had the Jaguar CD. I forgot if it came out when I had it. But just more examples of beautiful art here. And look at this Internet Archive just archiving these magazines so that you can see them again. You could read articles if you wanted to. It's pretty cool. You could even zoom in if you want. Whoa. We can zoom in like this far, and you can see how detailed these scans are. Let's see. Internet Archive. So you can see here, you can find, we have Game PC Magazine. Let me pick another one. We talked about Edge. Let's check out some Edge magazines. Mirror's Edge, which was a great game. So, trying to see what year this one is. This one is... won't tell me. But yeah, we could just scroll through this. This is a little bit... I think this is like in the 2000s now. What is that? Man, I miss this. Look at this. It's just so cool. It's so nostalgic. All the ads and Mirror's Edge, the first Mirror's Edge was really great. I didn't really get a chance to play the new one. Just so cool. I need to buy more of these. I need to get more of these. I'm going to show you a really cool trick where we can get more of them. I did ask today on Twitter, what's your favorite retro video game magazine? So I'm going to read some of these. Shockdown said, Game Informer and Nintendo Power. Both used to contain pretty amazing player guides for many games, but Nintendo Power, I think, was the winner because it always seemed to show off games coming out even if they didn't make it to the States. Nintendo Power or GamePro, EGM, official Dreamcast magazine. It had great demos, and I was absolutely crazy about the Dreamcast. Nintendo Power, EGM, GamePro, didn't read any others. Nikki Zombie Queen said these were simply the best. Codebook, which is one that I didn't read. Does it count as retro magazine if it's still going on now? So Edge, which we talked about, I guess turns out they are still going on now. Nintendo Power, I kept getting it turning the N64 years, even though I never owned an N64. I just liked looking at the games, and especially the maps. Nintendo Power, EGM, also loved GamePro and Nintendo Power. Nintendo 64 magazine and the Club Nintendo from Mexico. EGM, this magazine had the cheat codes in the back, and it was called Tips and Tricks. Nice. This person said, Game Fan magazine, I love the little comic shorts and the HSU and show, the Hazu and show. Nintendo Power, I think Nintendo Power, just a little bit. Nice, look at that collection. Computer Gaming World magazine. Oh well, everyone replied. Game Masters is GOAT. I doubt Mean Machines is ever going to be beaten. I have the Trifold Super Mario RPG from Nintendo Power somewhere around here. Nice, David. And hello, welcome to the cafe, by the way. But as you can see, I tweeted this morning before the podcast started, and there's a ton of people that are just telling me their love and their favorite video games magazines at the time as well. So let me think here. So a good buddy of mine who I met on Clubhouse, he shared this really cool thing that's called by the Video Game History Foundation. And if you guys are interested in this, I'll share the link. So what this is basically called the Blind Box Vintage Video Game Magazine. So you could get surprised. You can get magazines from the 80s and 90s or the 2000s. And for $15, either one-time pay, they'll send you a random box with a random amount of magazines. And what does this do? It's kind of supporting the idea of archiving and keeping these things alive. So they must have tons and tons of magazines they just want to give away. Well, they're not giving away. You could actually do a subscription. You could do a subscription, and every month they're going to send you a box of random magazines. So I want to give props to.
There's someone here.
Someone followed me.
Where?
Oh, David, thanks for the sub. Thank you so much, David. Thanks for the sub. Enjoy the coffee. It's always really delicious, and the coffee cups are really cool. Kevin Kenson, who's a YouTuber, I met him on Clubhouse last night.
There's someone here.
Is that Yo Epic?
Keep your eye open.
What up, man? Thanks for the sub as well. Or a gifted sub. No Fear gifted it. Oh, man. Thank you so much for gifting him and giving him a coffee cup, No Fear. What up, Yo? Good to see you, brother. Thanks for the gift thanks for the gift for David as well. I love it. Thanks. Hey, Yo. It's good to see you. Good to see you in chat, buddy. So Kevin is the one that I met. Check out his YouTube. He does gaming, tech, and news. It's Kevin Kenson on YouTube, and he recommended the Blind Box. And I'm going to do this, and we'll do a video of it. And I guess I'm going to do a one-time purchase and see what magazines we get. I'm so excited. So again, let me give you guys the link for this. It's called the Blind Box. So if you want to help keep video game magazines alive, they're basically allowing you to have a way to get free video, not free video game. It's $15 or $20 a month. Sorry. It's not free, but it's a cool mix of random video game magazines that you can get. Nintendo Powers, EGMs, Game Fans, whatever it might be, Next Generation magazines. There's a whole lot here. So really, really cool opportunity here to really just enjoy some random video game magazines, which is something that we just don't do as much as we do anymore. And that's the whole point of my show, is to walk through and talk about things we remember from video games that unlock or feel some nostalgic power. And we can all agree that video game magazines represented such an important part of our culture when we were younger. Or, you know, if you're not as old as I am, you can at least give a look at some of these old magazines. You know, they're not expensive. Believe it or not, strategy guides are really cheap. I have Halo 2 strategy guide. I have Grand Theft Auto 3 strategy guide. I have the original Vice City strategy guide. And those are cool to look at too. And we'll have to do a whole episode for that as well. I mean, I don't know if I can include them together, but they're very much in the same wavelength because, you know, what these represented was the internet. You know, back then, you know, using a strategy guide was like Googling for Cyberpunk to look up a side mission, you know? So really appreciate the history of video game magazines. And if you want to support them, head over to the Video Game History Foundation and get yourself a Blind Box subscription. I promise you they did not pay me to say this. I just think it's really fantastic. And that being said, that's really going to come to the close of our episode today. It's I think we filled in a nice selection. There's only so much you could talk about when it comes to retro video game mags, but you know, as always, every week we're going to be talking about something fun, something nostalgic, and we are having a few guests coming on the show. We're going to have a good friend, Game Tracks, coming on the show in mid-February, who's going to be talking all things gaming music. He's an awesome streamer. He also does some cool modding of DSs and so forth, so I'm going to talk to him about that. Then later in the month, we're going to have one of the biggest retro gaming TikTokers, 1980s gamer, who's on TikTok. He has an awesome set of collection of video games. He is also really pretty well known for his game cheats. So he knows a ton of game cheats from the original games or secrets and hidden hiding spots. Check him out on TikTok at 1980s Gamer. And we're going to have him on the show. We're going to be having a lot more guests. I'm just so ecstatic with the support. And, I'm just going to keep on keeping on like I always do, guys and gals. I really love doing the podcast. It really keeps me sane. And you all keep me sane. So let me think about who we're going to raid today. Let's see here. Who we going to raid today? We are going to raid... Rocky. Not a retro streamer by any means, but a really good person, and we're going to raid her. Give her some love. All right? Just give her some love. Again, I'm Andy, your host of this wonderful coffee podcast. I hope you had a good time today. If you want to find me, just hit me up on Twitter at producer BTW. Everything's there. The link tree is right there for you. And on TikTok, thanks everyone for stopping by. But we're gonna raid Rocky here. 1 second. Come on, Rocky. Give some love, say highs, and I hope everyone has a great weekend. I'm excited. Take care, everybody. We'll see you next week. Stay fresh.